So today we're going to give you something most English courses won't, the exact words to ask for a raise. Not general advice, not be confident, actual scripts you can use tomorrow.
And if you stay till the end, I'm going to share one thing I do before every difficult conversation that nobody talks about. It's not a phrase, it's not a template. It's something else entirely, and it changed everything for me.
Welcome to Fluent English Cafe. I'm Tony.
And I'm Anna, and we're here to help you speak English fluently and confidently in real-life situations.
This channel is for anyone who wants to communicate clearly in English without sounding like a textbook. We teach real conversations, real phrases, and real confidence.
And today's episode? This one's specifically for professionals. If you work in an office, if you have a job where you need to ask for things, negotiate, or have difficult conversations in English, this is for you.
If that's you, hit subscribe right now. We release new episodes every week with practical English you can actually use at work, at home, and everywhere in between.
Perfect. Now let's talk about money.
Whoa, hold on. Before we get into it, we have to start with a story. Anna's story. Because it's embarrassing, and also because it's probably exactly what some of you are afraid will happen to you.
Do we have to?
We absolutely have to.
Okay, so this was my first year working in an English-speaking environment. I had been at the company for about 14 months, and I knew I was underpaid. I knew I deserved more, so I spent weeks working up to it. I made notes for myself, I practiced in the mirror a few times, and finally, one afternoon, I walked into my manager's office.
What happened?
She looked at me and said, "What's on your mind?" And I completely froze. I said, "Oh, nothing, just wanted to check in, everything's great, bye." And then I walked out.
You just walked out?
I walked out, and then I didn't try again for 2 years. 2 years of leaving money on the table because I couldn't find the words in the moment.
Here's the thing, though. That story isn't about being bad at your job. It's about being human. And when you're having a conversation in English that already feels high stakes, that human fear gets multiplied. So if that sounds familiar, you're in the right place. Before we give you the script, let's talk about why asking for a raise feels different when English isn't your first language.
When English is your native language, asking for a raise is stressful, but it's mostly about the outcome. Will they say yes? Will they think you're being greedy? But the words themselves are just there. You don't have to think about them.
For those of us learning English, though, it's layered. We're nervous about the outcome, and we're nervous about the words. Will I pronounce this correctly? Will I use the right tense? What if I'm in the middle of a sentence and I just forget what I was saying?
And that second layer of fear, the language fear, it makes us do one of two things. Either we don't ask at all, like I did for 2 years, or we ask in a way that sounds weak because we're so focused on not making mistakes that we forget to sound confident.
So today, we're separating those layers. We're giving you the actual words so you can stop thinking about them and start focusing on the conversation itself.
Let's start with what happens before the conversation. This is where most people make their first mistake.
What's the mistake?
They try to catch their manager off guard. They see them walking to the kitchen and think this is their moment, and they just follow them and bring it up right there.
Okay, I have definitely done this.
I know you have, and sometimes it works if you have a really good relationship with your manager, but for most of us, ambushing is a bad strategy. When you catch someone unprepared, they're not ready to have a thoughtful conversation about your value. They're thinking about their lunch, or their next meeting, or the thing they have to do after this.
So what should we do instead?
You schedule it, and here are the exact words to use. You send an email or a message that says, "I'd like to schedule 15 minutes to discuss my role and contributions. Let me know when you have time this week."
That's it? You don't mention money at all?
No mention of money. If you say, "I want to discuss a raise," they'll show up defensive. If you say, "I want to discuss my role and contributions," they show up curious. And once you're in the room, you can guide the conversation wherever it needs to go.
That's smart. You're controlling how they show up without creating tension before you even start.
Exactly. So now you've scheduled the meeting. The conversation is coming. What do you actually prepare?
This is where I used to freeze. I'd prepare everything and nothing at the same time. Like I'd have all these thoughts in my head, but no actual words ready.
Right. So here's what you actually need to prepare. 3 things. Only 3, not 10, 3.
3 what exactly?
3 specific accomplishments from the past year. Not vague things like, I worked hard. Specific things that wouldn't have happened if you weren't there.
Can you give us an example from your own experience?
Sure. Last year, when I prepared for this, I wrote down 3 things. 1, I led the integration project that came in under budget and 2 weeks early. 2, I trained 2 new hires who are now fully independent and handling their own clients. 3, I took over client reporting when a colleague was on leave, and we retained all 3 clients during that period.
Those are good because they're facts. Nobody can argue with facts. They're not opinions about your work, they're just what happened.
Exactly. And here's a language tip that makes a huge difference. When you have your 3 points, practice saying them out loud. Not in your head, out loud.
Why does that matter so much?
Because your mouth needs to learn the words just as much as your brain does. I used to prepare everything in my head, and then in the actual conversation, my mouth would just refuse to cooperate, like it hadn't been invited to the rehearsal.
That is exactly what happens. So you're saying we need to actually hear ourselves say the words.
Yes, say them in the car, say them in the shower, say them to your cat if you have one. Just say them out loud.
Okay, so we've scheduled the meeting, we've prepared our 3 accomplishments and practiced them out loud. Now we're in the room. What do we actually say first?
Here's the script I use, and I want you to listen carefully because these words matter. Thank you for meeting with me. I've really enjoyed working here, and I want to continue growing with the team. I'd like to talk about my compensation and see if we can adjust it to reflect my contributions over the past year.
Say that again slowly so people can write it down.
Thank you for meeting with me. I've really enjoyed working here, and I want to continue growing with the team. I'd like to talk about my compensation and see if we can adjust it to reflect my contributions over the past year.
What I love about this is it's not aggressive. You're not making a demand. You're opening a conversation. And then after you say it, what do?
You pause. You let them respond. You don't fill the silence. You just wait.
That pause is terrifying, though.
It is terrifying, but it's also powerful because if you speak first, you're negotiating against yourself. Let them show their hand before you say anything else.
So they respond. Maybe they say, okay, tell me more, or what did you have in mind? Now what?
Now you bring in your 3 accomplishments. But here's the trick. Don't just list them like a robot. Connect them to value. So instead of saying, I led the integration project, you say, I led the integration project, which came in under budget and actually strengthened our relationship with those clients.
So you're not just saying what you did, you're saying why it mattered.
Exactly. And then you transition to the ask. You say, based on these contributions, I'm hoping we can discuss an adjustment in the range of 10 to 15%.
You have to say a number?
You have to say a number. If you don't, they'll pick a number and it'll probably be lower than what you want. Do your research, know what's reasonable for your role and your market, and then name your range.
What if you're not sure what's reasonable?
Then you say, I'd like to be at a level that reflects my contributions and the market. I've done some research and I'm seeing ranges between X and Y for this type of role. Does that align with how you're thinking about it?
That's good because you're not demanding, you're inviting them into the conversation. Okay, but here's the part everyone's scared of. What if they say no?
Or what if they say not right now?
Same thing. What do?
First, you take a breath, you stay calm, and then you say, I understand. Can we discuss what I would need to accomplish to revisit this in 3 to 6 months?
And that's perfect because it shows you're professional about the answer, and it sets up a concrete next step. You're not just walking away with nothing.
And here's another option if you want to understand more about their decision. You can say, Is there anything specific that's making this difficult right now? I'd like to understand so I can help address any concerns.
That's a really advanced phrase. It shows you're thinking about the business, not just yourself. And that's exactly the kind of person they want to keep around.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, I want to come back to something I mentioned at the very beginning.
Oh, right, the secret thing you do.
Yes, so the night before any important conversation, whether it's a raise conversation or a performance review or even a difficult feedback meeting, I record myself on my phone.
You record yourself.
I record myself saying what I'm planning to say, not practicing in my head, actually recording, and then I listen to it.
What does that do for you?
The first time I listen, I usually cringe. I hear all the places where I stumble, all the words I'm unsure about, all the moments where I sound nervous, and then I record it again and again until I listen back and think, okay, that sounds like me. That sounds like someone who knows what they're talking about.
So you're not just practicing the words, you're practicing hearing yourself say them.
Exactly. And by the time you're in the actual conversation, your brain has already heard this before. It's familiar. It's not new and scary. It's just the thing you practiced.
I love that. I'm going to start doing that.
You haven't been doing it already?
No, but I'm starting now. Okay, let's do a quick recap of what we covered today.
Good idea. 1. Schedule the conversation instead of ambushing.
2. Prepare 3 specific accomplishments and practice them out loud.
3. Use the opening script we gave you. Thank you for meeting with me. I'd like to talk about my compensation.
4. If they say no, ask what you need to accomplish to revisit it.
And 5. Record yourself the night before. That one's free, and it works.
If this episode helped you, hit subscribe. We're here to help you speak English with confidence in every situation.
And leave a comment telling us what you're going to practice this week. We'll be here reading them.
And if you want more professional English like this, let us know. We can do more career-focused episodes.
Next week, we're talking about something that happens to Tony in almost every meeting.
Getting interrupted. It happens constantly.
So next week, what to say when someone cuts you off and you need to finish your point. It's going to be a good one.
See you then.
Thanks for listening.